And now, here's today's host, Jim Masters.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We're live worldwide on Close-Up Radio. This is your host, Jim Masters. Pleasure to have you here. Also a pleasure to have Robert Cotton joining us. He is an elevator and escalator expert extraordinaire. This is part one of an exclusive two-part series that we're doing. As a premier elevator and escalator expert and consultant, as well as expert witness for litigation involving elevator, escalator failures, and/or accidents, his consulting work mainly focuses on faulty equipment that causes injuries or damage due to things like floods or fire. In the area of failure analysis, there is a forensic focus on electrical and mechanical failures of elevator and escalator systems. This includes high-rise buildings, high-speed multiple elevator groups, commercial and residential buildings, shopping malls, airports, transit agencies, and even hospitals. As an expert witness, Robert can be called upon either for the plaintiff's or the defendant's side to review evidence, inspect the equipment, and also determine the root cause of accidents or malfunctions, and actually give his factual opinion in court. Robert has been deposed over 80 times and has testified in at least 8 jury trials, all as an expert. He hopes to continue to spread awareness that more of us need to realize how elevators, although not foolproof, are not something to fear. And nowadays they comply with safety codes, laws, and they're routinely expected and properly maintained so that we have even more reassurance of their safety and their reliability. Robert has over 40 years of experience working in the industry and is also the owner of an elevator company in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's performed over 1,000 inspections in numerous states and is sought after as an elevator and expert extraordinaire, truly. Don't miss, of course, this episode, but the second episode as well, because this is a two-part series that we're kicking off today here on Close-Up Radio. It's going to inspire you with his professional expertise. During the course of the conversation, we'll be discussing interesting cases and also be sharing his own journey to success. Without further ado, from San Rafael, California, in the San Francisco area, let's welcome our very special guest, elevator and escalator expert, Robert Cotton, joining us here today. Robert, joining us on Close-Up Radio, and we thank you for that.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. We are very excited to talk about the incredible work that you do. Tell us about, I'd like to go back a little bit in time and sort of humanize our guests. What is it about this particular work that inspired you? How were you introduced to it? And were you always a kid like me that ran up and down the escalators in the department stores and never wanted to get off them, and your mother had to call you over and say, okay, look, Jimmy, we're leaving, we've got to go, and you're still going up and down and fascinated by the escalator as a kid?
Well, actually, quite the opposite. As a little kid, escalators were a little intimidating to me. I wasn't really comfortable getting on and off them, and it was just kind of strange. Although, as a kid, going through high school mainly, beginning of high school, late junior high, by necessity, wanting to have a little freedom and getting around town and doing what I want to do with my friends, cars became something important. And this, of course, is in the early, middle 70s. So we started working on cars, my parents' cars, my friends' cars. And when I got my permit and license, then I was able to get a car. So I became what they call in high school one of the motorheads, kids who pretty handy around cars and working on the neighborhood cars and so forth. And how that opened up the elevator industry slowly was a neighbor across the street, Mr. Randall, managed a small independent elevator company in San Francisco called Atlas Elevator Company. It had been around since the 20s or something like that. And they had a fleet of vehicles. And my older brother had worked a summer there on a college break doing deliveries and running around the shop and such. And they had all these vehicles that needed attention. And I had just wanted to take a break in high school my junior year, end of junior year, working at a gas station. They did tune-ups and auto repairs and such. So kind of wanted to take a break and enjoy my senior year of high school. And then I got connected. There was an opportunity at that elevator company to get these vehicles working for they have technicians who run all over the Bay Area, taking trouble calls and doing repairs and so forth. It's a fleet of probably 20 vehicles, and probably 6 or 8 or 10 of them were in pretty bad shape. One needed an engine and tune-ups and brakes, whatever. So I would go to school, my senior year of high school, and, do my classes, and then as soon as I got out of school, I would drive to San Francisco and then work on the cars and keep them running, and it morphed into becoming the all-around shop kid, doing deliveries, picking things up and dropping them off for the elevator techs all over town. And it really gave me an insight into the inner workings of how an elevator company operates, from the inside out, and where vendors are and so forth. So it became pretty cool. I really enjoyed it, being wearing different hats at the company and being handy and running around and learning about San Francisco, where I was born, different suppliers and so forth. And the elevator group is a wonderful group of people that are, it's kind of a tight-knit group. It's a important trade where safety is number one. You can get injured. It can be a potentially dangerous job. So there's a really deep camaraderie. And that was really a great thing for me going through senior year of high school, having all this experience, and it looks like a career may be brewing, Some of my friends were going off to college. I was attending night school, but I just really enjoyed this whole affair of all this activity and interesting things. And as having that experience, where to get materials and suppliers and all this sort of thing, and knowing San Francisco, when the opportunity arose for me to get into the elevator union, the International Union of Elevator Constructors, I was pretty knowledgeable about where to get things and that aspect of it. So as a mechanic's helper, I'd go out on a job with a mechanic, and we're fixing XYZ on an elevator someplace in San Francisco. And the mechanic would say, "Oh, man, we need to get this widget. Oh, I don't know what to do. I got to call the shop and get one." And I would say, "Well, sorry. Hey, Joe, down the street, there's 3 vendors that have that. I know the guys. We can get one, man. But let's go." Boom, boom, boom. So I kind of knew where to get all the parts, and that really was an asset to being a helper in a mechanic's, an apprentice. So with that mixture of knowing where the parts are and so forth, and then actually getting my hands on the equipment with these mechanics and the willingness for them to train me and my willingness to learn, it was a really, really good thing. And I really, really enjoyed it and started to see the equipment from a different aspect. Here's this, truckload of parts I used to deliver, and now I can see where the parts fit into whatever the equipment is, escalator or elevator. So that's kind of how I got going. And it was really, really fun. And then cars weren't that, I wasn't working on cars as much. I was, doing the elevator stuff more and more.
Let's talk about, it's a fascinating way that it led you to doing this work. Tell us about the elevator and escalator consulting work that you do, to give the audience an idea of the actual process, the work itself. Are companies, stores, retailers, corporations, do they bring you in? How does it all work?
A very good question. Thank you for asking. It kind of came in by accident. I knew an attorney, and he had just mentioned to me, "You're an elevator guy, right?" I said, "Yeah, I am." He says, "Well, I have a client, excuse me, who owns a building, and he thinks he's, getting bad service from the elevator company. Can you look at these documents?" And blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of my first intro to it, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So I kind of started to get my name out there a little bit as a consultant, whatever avenues were available at that time. I wasn't, hardcore about, that was my life or death business or anything like that. It was just kind of a side thing. So I would get contacted by attorneys, insurance companies. One of the first entities I worked with was a company that did failure analysis. They'd be called in by insurance companies to check out a failure of whatever, it could be all kinds of different things, and some of it involved elevators. So I was doing quite a bit of work for that company for a while and getting my name out there more and more and getting a resume. And then I just, get contacted more and more. And like I said, I wasn't actively pursuing it. It's a life or death thing for me to survive, but it was just kind of a side thing. And it got busier and busier, and I got more and more opportunities. And then my name would go out there to certain attorneys, for example. And San Francisco is kind of a small town. One attorney would call another attorney, hey, we have an elevator case or an escalator case. Oh, I got the guy for you. So my name would pop up. And that's been happening more and more and more. And I'm getting my name out there more. And like I said, it wasn't my main thing, but now it's becoming getting busier and busier. And with the years and years of experience I have that I can't even believe I've been in the trade that long, it's been, a really good thing. I have a pretty deep background of this stuff. I've seen quite a bit, and, not only being a consultant, having the experience, but working on the elevators constantly keeps my fingers on the pulse, so to speak. So I know the industry, I know suppliers, and I know with, all the contacts that I have, kind of what's going on in the industry. So I have a pretty good feel of what's happening. It isn't just I have knowledge about elevators and I know the codes and I'm going to do these inspections and make these assessments. I have hands-on experience in addition to that of repairing these things and, bidding jobs and so forth. So I have a really in-depth knowledge of the inner workings of this from both sides.
That's terrific. That's great, and you have a real passion for it. How can people who have a fear of elevators feel more assured that they're actually safer than most of us think that they are? It's funny, my mother, she doesn't love elevators. Maybe it goes back to childhood. The part, I'm good with them, but it's the part, I guess, not when it first takes off and goes up or down. It's, I guess, when it's coming to the stop, sort of sometimes that little bump. There's that little bump where it, I guess, connects or whatever. She'll always mention that. She'll wait for it and always mention that.
Yeah, well, I don't think the Hollywood movie industry has done elevators a justice because they show these crazy things that happen with elevators falling and blowing up and catching on fire or whatever, but that is not the case. Elevators, statistically, if you were to gather all the data of the number of people that ride elevators in the world, it's in the billions. And the accidents, it's like a handful. And those handful of accidents are for mostly people trying to climb out of the elevators and become injured. They might slip and fall down the hoistway if the elevator isn't positioned to the floor. But actual riding of an elevator, becoming injured, it's, the percentage is 0.000 whatever. It's such a low number. It's negligible. And as a result of that, they are statistically the safest means of transportation. Walking down the street, riding a bike, flying in a jet plane, riding a bus, whatever, are not as safe as elevators. And particularly, I can speak to the United States. There's national codes that need to be adhered to and design criteria taken into account when they build these things and install these things. So they're very, very safe. Yes, it's an inconvenience to get stuck in an elevator. You are not in any danger. You're not going to run out of air. Nothing's going to fall on you. Snakes aren't going to crawl out of the walls and bite you or anything like that. They're safe.